In the meantime, the United Nations mission in South Sudan is increasing its patrol in the country's western equatorial region. This is aimed at distributing humanitarian aid to displaced people who are sheltering in makeshift camps without access to clean water, food, or shelter.
The United Nations mission in South Sudan, UNMISS, is boosting its patrols in South Sudan's western equatorial region, where it distributed humanitarian aid to displaced people who are sheltering in makeshift camps without access to clean water, food, or shelter. The villages of Bangassou and Rimenze in western Equatoria are suffering from a volatile security situation with ongoing violence between armed groups involved in the South Sudanese political conflict.
Really very difficult for us to survive in this place because even we run, even all our food items was rooted, and even all our food items are now spoiled. We are just staying, waiting who can help us by providing us some little food that we can help our children and women.
This was the first visit by troops serving with UNMISS since July and distributed cooking pots, tarpaulins, buckets and food.
Of course, we are scared because there is no protection. You know, anybody can just come and enter the camp. As it has happened several times back that the rebels can come and enter the camp, begin to beat people, begin to loot things from people. That's why we are putting our request that the UN should come here to protect the civilians here.
Despite more robust peacekeeping, violence continues in the country.
Well, let's get more on this story with the lecturer of political science at the University of Lagos, Dr. Dele Ashiru. Welcome to Network Africa, Dr. Ashiru.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
So what do you think about the sanctions imposed on South Sudan? Do you think it's realistic?
Well, I think the sanctions are realistic and also in order. Because if individuals who ought to take care of a state behaves in such irresponsible manner that the president and the vice president of South Sudan are behaving, certainly a superior institution or organization like the United Nations must intervene the way they are doing. And I think the sanctions are in order if the UN is able to pursue it to a logical conclusion. I think it will go a long way in ameliorating, if not totally resolving, the conflict in South Sudan.
Now, South Sudan has described the move as unfortunate. That aside, but do you see a possible lifting of the ban?
Well, describing the sanctions as unfortunate is also a reflection of the mentality of the kind of leaders that we have in Africa. If you claim to lead a people and you put them through this kind of suffering and efforts at, resolving the crisis is described as unfortunate, speaks volume about, the character of those leaders. However, I also think that if the UN intensifies these sanctions, it will put a moral burden on all of the leaders, and it could lead to an early resolution of the crisis.
Well, despite the UN peacekeeping efforts in that country, we've still seen violence escalating there. Are we hopeful of a ceasefire in the near future?
Like I said earlier, it is these two dramatis personae that is responsible, for not only enforcing the ceasefire, but also ensuring that, the lives of people, of their people, is secured. So if these two individuals are behaving the way they are, then it tells us that we may even need more than mere sanctions to compel them to wear their thinking cap.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Dele Ashiru. Dr. Dele Ashiru is a lecturer of political science at the University of Lagos. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now, the Treasurer General of the African National Congress, coming up in a moment, South Africa may appeal against FIFA's decision to order a replay of the World Cup qualifier against Senegal. To join us again.